Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucs, powered by Chris Gates Fitness. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Tyler. Tyler, good morning.
Morning.
Happy Monday, man.
God, I hate Mondays.
You know why I hate Mondays? Because I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning and do this.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jim.
All right. Yeah, Jim's out in L.A. awarding the Pittsburgh Pirates some losses. So since he's in L.A., here's Tyler Monday morning filling in.
Yeah, sorry, people. But I'm here, and we're going to roll through it.
Yeah.
It's been a rough week.
Let's roll through this because, man, has it been a rough week. I mean, just say what it is. The Pirates were in second place. They were buyers at the trade deadline. You can debate how well that went. Regardless, they were buyers at the trade deadline. I think at one point, like one and a half games out of the wild card.
Yeah, I remember talking to Jim on PlayStation during I believe it was the Astros game, the one that I think Jake Woodford started. And we were looking ahead at the schedule, and it was the Diamondback series coming up, and we're like, they have a good group of pitchers going this weekend. If they can sneak this one out, we could be talking about a team that's like 4 games over 500.
Yeah.
And then everything just fell apart.
Was it 52 and 50, I think?
It was something
were
like, I think.
At one point, 2 games above, I think at 52, 50, something. Yeah, right. They become buyers. And then they lost 8 of 9, 6 in a row.
Yeah, that's a tough one to climb out of.
Tyler, today they sit in last place of the NL Central. That's where they've come. And I know the NL Central. The one thing about it is it's competitive in the sense of there's not one team that's just completely terrible, which has been like the Pirates for the past 4 years. Like there's no like bottom dwelling team that they've just fallen so far, and that's why they're in last place. However, that's where they sit right now, in last place.
Yeah, it happened quickly. And I don't have much more to add on top of that because it just happened so quickly that it felt like we blinked and all of a sudden the season was over.
It really did. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, you blinked. Right. A week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, like you mentioned, we're here debating, like, you know what? There's a real shot, a real possibility this team's a playoff team. And we're talking like behind the scenes about like North Shore 9 stuff. I mean, do we kind of need to prepare for this? I mean, what if they are in the playoffs? Do we need to do anything special or shows, stuff like that? Like we never, since especially you, like you've been on North Shore 9. I don't think we've ever had playoffs in our mindset as far as like, hey, we might have to do like post-game shows or, playoff special stuff. And it's like, do we have to do anything different now? And so we're like starting to think about it. And then, right, like a week and a half later, it's like, all right, so what are we doing for this off season as far as like, looking forward to 2025?
Right.
Just like that.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I was looking forward to talking about a team in the hunt in September because we haven't even had that yet. Heck, even August. And it was pretty much immediately in August that it ended. And I was really looking forward to just talking about how important these games are.
For sure. Before we go any further, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today, get on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, I guess the realist, like I said with Doug on the post-game show, of course, it's before they lost again. But it's like, I want the Pirates mindset to be like, hey, we're still in the playoff hunts. Let's spin off wins. But of course, to be realistic, those are long gone. right? It's time to kind of look at, like, you know what? How are we going to finish this season? What looks do we need to see from certain players? What do we want to do to head into 2025? Is that fair?
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of guys that are fighting for their jobs going into next year. Maybe not in the Pirates' minds, but at least in my mind, I would think a lot of guys are fighting for their jobs.
Like who?
I would think there's some guys on the coaching staff that
Okay.
at the very least should be coaching for their jobs right now, because you can't collapse. And I don't want to use that word again because we have some nightmares about that word, but you can't have a collapse like this in what year are we in? 5 of a rebuild, and 5 straight years under 500. I don't know any other organization that would keep a coaching staff intact after that.
Yeah. I mean, my viewpoint on this really hasn't changed. There's stuff that I appreciate from Derek Shelton. I think if you said as well, there's stuff that quite shouldn't challenge about Derek Shelton, but I do ultimately just feel as if this team just needs a reset button, and it kind of starts there. And there's many reasons. I think Doug and I kind of went in details about this too. I mean, just you talk about culture, but even just cultural as far as like the team and just fundamentals. And I'm not putting, again, I can't. There's one thing too. Like, I know a lot of people like to put blame on Charrington. A lot of people like to put blame on Shelton, but at the same time, like, the players can't be absolved of all blame. Like, they also have to be good, and they're just simply not good. Part of why the players aren't good also is because you've created a product filled with players that aren't all that good. Which again is why Shelton's kind of absolved from some things too, because it's like, when you argue like last night when David Bednar was, put in just for the game, right? In the win situation at first, and then went back and out there for the 10th inning. Like, what options does Derek Shelton truly have? Not many. So, like, do you put blame on him for everything, or do you say, like, hey, maybe support him with some valuable players, Ben? And at the same time, it's like, David Bednar, you're the closer. You shouldn't have this ERA that you have and giving up runs all the time and whatnot. So, yeah, like, I'm with you. There's just so much. And I just feel like they just need a reset button. They need new leadership. Just like you said, like with coaching, I think it starts there. It always starts at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it sound like I'm blaming Shelton for a lot of this, because a lot of it's probably not his fault, but it's also the easiest switch you can really make. And also, keeping him around at this point kind of shows some complacency. You can continue to essentially fail and keep your job. We talked about that, I think, in the offseason. We've talked about it a little bit early in the season. At some point, you kind of need to make that change just so guys in the clubhouse can look around and go, oh, yeah, we are playing for something here. Like, being mediocre is not okay. Or even the fact that, hey, we just lost this guy his job because we didn't play well enough. That's what a shakeup does.
Yeah, I like that too. Like you're mentioning, the complacency thing. I feel like that's been the buzzword for like 3 years now with this organization. And right, like, this is now no longer tolerated. We have a standard now. The standard is the standard. To add to Mike Tomlin, since it felt the Pirates, front office and coaching staff wanted to go out to the Pirates training camp the other day. Maybe they need to, feed on a few things here. Now, again, like, there's some similarities there with the coaching you talk about. You love to talk about the Steelers coaching, but right, like, no longer is this good enough will do. It's a new day with the Pirates. It's going to be year 6. It's time to start winning. Winning actually matters. Winning is the emphasis, not trying hard. Because this team tries hard. We talk about it time and time again. Like, they do. And kudos to Derek Shelton for ensuring that this team does. But they also, like, now they have to win. So how are you going to win opposed to trying hard?
Yeah, and I mean, we're giving them credit for trying hard, but that is literally the bare minimum. Like, the bare minimum is the putting in effort. And that I know what you mean, though, that they have battled back in situations that they could have just laid down and taken their lumps, lost games 7-0, 5-0, and they've battled back in a lot of those games. So Derek Shelton does deserve credit for that. But we're well beyond the point where fighting back should be the objective. Like, you got to start winning here.
Yeah. So I ask you the same kind of question that, me and Doug talked about. Is it time to start seeing players like Henry Davis and maybe Cook and York?
I think we're well beyond that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Davis is an interesting one, I think, because he struggled so much at the major league level. But also he's not a young prospect anymore. You at least got to find out what you have in him and see if there is some sort of hot streak in there. Heck, just see if he can even hit major league pitching, because he hasn't done it at all. Even a stretch of him hitting major league pitching would be a positive. So I do think these last couple months, see what you have in him. You definitely, I think, have to see what you have in Cook and York. You just went out and acquired them. Let's find out what they are before we go into the offseason and see what you need to address.
I'm absolutely there with that. And again, it's my thought on this also with Grandal. I mean, Grandal has no future. Absolutely no future with the Pirates. Henry Davis, you hope, does. And that's why I felt, again, like for the organization, if they're keyed in on, hey, we still need to make the playoffs, you need some type of catalyst to get you there. Because now that you've made this hole so much deeper, the status quo is not going to get you there. Right? Like Yasmani, Grandal, and Joey Bart's not going to get you there. They haven't gotten you there. They barely this group of guys barely got you over 500. So I'm not here to say Henry Davis is going to be the savior and get you there, but something needs to change to be that catalyst. And that could be Henry Davis. Maybe he is starting to figure stuff out and he comes up and he gets on a hot streak and helps you win some games. But ultimately, at the same time, like if it doesn't happen, hey, you've now given him a month and a half back to hit major league pitching, to evaluate him some more. And not even so much evaluate, but for him to start seeing some more. Because I know there's so many people writing off as a bust. And at the end of the day, it's been like around 350 plate appearances, I think, under 400. Can you really label someone a bust yet? Especially catchers, how much time they usually take to develop and such. Give them that extra month and a half. It's going to be an important part next year, probably. Do you want those 150 bats this year or the start of next year to, prepare?
I guess that depends on what the Pirates see in Henry Davis anymore. I mean, have they written them off? Has Joey Bart moved ahead of them? And I think he has in the pecking order, because Joey Bart has been pretty good this year. He's the best catcher in this organization at the moment. And it would be nice to call Henry Davis up with Joey Bart and let Davis maybe not have all the weight on his shoulders at the catching position. Maybe you can mix him in at DH here and there, but also I want to see Kutch play a little more because this is kind of his swan song. But you can...
Maybe.
I think it's a swan song. We can talk about that as the year goes on here, but there's other spots that you can play Henry Davis as well right now, because it's not like there's other spots in this lineup that are hitting. So he can get at bats up here. Cut bait with Grandal. I don't need to see any more of that. Let Joey Bart catch Skeens if that's what you're keeping Grandal up here for anymore, and let's just see what we have.
I'm with it. I think we're absolutely at the time that there's nothing, and I could be wrong, obviously, but I just feel like we're at the time where there's nothing that Henry Davis can really learn at AAA at this point in time that he doesn't know already. I mean, he goes down there, and every time he's there, he just completely matches. The pitching is just too easy for him. He's gotta learn up here. Again, the ONeal Cruz argument. Like, he just has to figure out major league pitching. That's what's going to get him to the next step. It's not by letting him sit in AAA and just feast off inferior pitching that he does all the time. I mean, like, once again, his OPS is over 1,000, right? Like, it doesn't faze him. He goes down there, he mashes. He's got to figure it up here. So So I'm with you. Like the pressure's off. Joey Bart is a guy. And also you're figuring some more out from Joey Bart, getting Grandal out of here. So have Joey Bart there, have Henry Davis there. If Henry Davis doesn't hit every single day, I think that's also fine. Like, I don't think he needs everyday at bats. He just needs to learn how to hit major league pitching. He needs to slow down. Maybe he has it, maybe he goes out there and sits the next day and can process and watch. Then go back out there and sit the next day and process and watch. I don't, that's where I'm at with him. Like with Jack Swinski, I think you need some at bats. With Henry Davis, I feel like, you know what? I'm not worried about him getting everyday at bats. I'm just worried about him learning. Maybe you need to take a step back sometimes to learn.
But also, I'm not against giving him everyday at bats because you can't argue with me that they can't have his bat in the lineup. They have many bats in this lineup that have been just atrocious. Like at this point, you can live with it and just let him work through it. It's not hurting anything.
No, absolutely fair. And then, like you mentioned, you just acquired Cook, who's also not young. Like, it's not as if he's like a 22-year-old, 21-year-old prospect. He's 25?
Yeah.
What do you need to keep around for? And there's no argument as far as like arbitration and Super 2 stuff. I mean, he's a 25-year-old prospect. It's just the argument we have like with Chiolo and such. It's like, you know what? You don't let this guy just ride out. He's going to become a free agent with 31, 32. Like you're not worried about that. What you're worried about is, hey, we just acquired him for some pretty good pitching depth. Is this guy going to be an answer for anything next year? Possibly center field that we desperately need. Maybe you might want to start finding that stuff out right now. And if anything, at least again, like we talk about rookies, like they struggle initially first, facing major league pitching. So like get those struggles out today and not April of next year when we've as of course this year seen, April matters too.
Jan, what more does that guy have to learn in the minor leagues? Like we talked about Henry Davis. That's a guy that really has nothing more to learn in the minor leagues. I get sending him down there when you get him because you want to take a look at him. But it's been a couple weeks now. Come on. You're seeing what's happening at the major league level. You're seeing what he's doing in AAA. What are we doing? Come on.
Right. 100%. Nick York, you can keep that argument. He is, of course, like a typical prospect. He's younger in that sense. Like he's where he should be. I'll put it that way. But like he's hitting very well. He's came over and he's hitting very well as well. And there is a need right now at second base without Gonzalez. You can play outfield pretty dang well. Also, you know who can't play outfield?
Pick one.
Exactly. Everyone not named Michael A. Taylor right now. So again, like we're talking about players that you want to see. I don't need to see G1 Bay anymore at all. I mean, he is just atrocious. Put him in right field. Cook in right field. That's why you brought these guys. It might be time to see if there are 2025 plans for them.
I fully agree with you. Like, I don't need to see G1 Bay play any more right field. I really don't need Brian De La Cruz to get every day at bats. Like, there's enough spots here where you can make this work with these guys. You can't tell me that this team's performing too well that they can't play.
And again, you easily can make the argument of if this team still wants to go for playoffs, replacing G1 Bay with either of those two might help you out. Like that could, again, like we talk about, these are the answers for both. These are the answers if you want to go for it. They actually might help you. And at the same time, you're evaluating learning and they're advancing their learning curve for Major League Pitching for 2025 season today. So I'm absolutely with it.
I think that's especially with Cook.
Especially with Cook. Yeah. And like his versatility. I mean, he is an outfielder.
Yeah.
He can play it. He can play it. Again,
you
you have nobody other than Michael A. Taylor who can on this team. In this organization, it seems like.
We saw yesterday.
Gorski. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, the right field defense is this series alone.
Yeah.
I mean, the irony Brian De La Cruz looked awful, and then G1 Bay, and I made a clip yesterday. I put everything together and I put it out. And literally, as I tweeted it, G1 Bay made this second terrible play. And I was like, hold up. I need to update this. It was literally not even a minute after I tweeted that out that happened. So, yeah. It's time. I think that's where we conclude with this. It's time.
I agree.
All right. Well, let's go on and bring on Anthony Murphy. Before we do, of course, to let you all know, and I'm going to say this since Jim's gone, since you listen to Starbucks every Monday, I know you love sports, but if you have health and fitness goals too, listen up, because Chris Gates Fitness just launched an online fitness membership called Training Camp. Training Camp is a monthly fitness program designed specifically for sports fans, and it's honestly like nothing we've ever done before. Chris has been coaching people for years. He's a massive Pitt football fan and has created a community and training camp that blends fitness and sports together to help achieve your goals while connecting with a community of sports fans doing the same thing. Whether you've struggled to stay consistent in the past, felt confused about what exercises to do, or needed more accountability, Training Camp is here to help. When you join Training Camp, you'll get top-notch coaching from Chris. He'll deliver monthly workout plans to help remove all the guesswork with exercising, so you can just show up, put in the work, and have confidence that what you're doing is working. The workout plans are customizable and designed to fit your busy lifestyle, so you stay consistent and see progress. You'll also join the private online Training Camp community where members gather for support, participate in challenges, win prizes, and more. You all know Chris. We've been talking about Chris for a long time. Of course, Jim tells you personally how well, he's been working with Chris for how long and such. We currently have NSI members in the Training Camp also. Great stuff. Definitely check it out. And again, as I talk and show many times, he puts so much just free stuff out on Twitter. I retweet, listen to. Yeah. Really good stuff. All right. So now we talked about the good stuff. Let's bring on this guy, Anthony Murphy.
Nice.
No, Murph, what's up? Murphy from Bucs On Deck Substack. Of course, you can check them out. They talk all things Pirates prospects. Really good stuff. That's why we bring you on to talk about the future. And you know what? The future, once again, is now. So what we got going on this week? Who's been cooking down in the minors?
like you guys mentioning Nick York, Billy Cook, they've been playing really well. Nick York especially, he's played 11 games since the trade. He's gotten hits in all 11 games. Had 8 hits last week. He's played center field a couple times now and left field, so expanding the positional flexibility there. You said probably have a need at second base. I think he's probably the most ready of the players down there right now that's looking for a shot. He's making really good contact using all fields. Like I said, now he's playing center field, a little bit of left field and stuff like that. So I love the trade. It was probably my favorite trade, bringing in Nick York at the deadline. The Cook one's grown on me a little bit more. But I think if you're looking for someone to maybe give a little bit of a jolt in the lineup, Nick York may be that kind of guy that you look to at this point.
Is the power starting to come around a little bit here?
He the exit velocity numbers has looked pretty good. He uses the opposite field a lot, so he goes the other way a lot. He's shown some power that way too with it, but maybe not traditional. I haven't really seen him really turn on a ball and pull it really far, but the couple doubles that he's put the other way have gone to the right center field wall. So he's putting some thumps in the ball kind of thing. So Cook finally played center field for the first time, I believe, over the weekend. He's mainly been playing on the corners. Nick York's actually played center more than Cook has. So I thought that was kind of interesting because York's never played center field professionally yet. So
yeah, I found that really interesting also.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it kind of makes sense. Like let's see if it can happen, because again, if you're talking about the future, like Michael A. Taylor's not a part of this team next year, likely. Of course, if he is, they have to resign him. But there's no answer at center field, and that's why like the Jazz trade we're kind of pushing. It made a lot of sense, because it's not as if like this free agency market has a whole lot coming in there for center field also to say, well, if we miss it on this, let's just go after that guy. So, you make this trade. I'm with you. Like, I did like the trade a lot. I mean, Quinn Priester, I'm not writing him off as a player by any means. I think there's some talent there. And if he, figures out in Boston, which he did in his first start there with them at AAA.
He's allowed like 10 earned runs in like 6 innings so far with Boston's AAA team. It hasn't. Yeah. The second start wasn't that much better than the first one.
Right. But like, to me, it's like one of those things, like if he figures it out, it's fine, because where's the room for him right now, especially if Bubba Chandler's coming up next year and such. You traded off something where you have, and you got something in need, and Nick York, I find intriguing as well. So like if he can play center field, maybe there's some help. I don't know if he's going to be the answer, but it's nice to know that he can play. If he can be some type of utility, or if he's the future IKF when IKF is gone after next year, like stuff that you want to know. And like what you said, but Billy Cook, he has played, and they said, well, we know you can play, I guess. Let's find out what else you can do. So like, I don't mind the way they're utilizing it right now. Just seeing like their abilities and how far they can expand.
Yeah. I mean, the even like when you look around the league, the Dodgers moved like their top catching prospect to left field when they promoted him to AAA. Just kind of like, well, let's see how this works. And if it looks good, now we have another option down the stretch and stuff like that to bring up. And because, obviously they have Will Smith behind the plate. So
right.
Creating more options. And that's always a good thing to have. So that's what the Pirates are trying to do. And Nick York's a guy who, like, he was drafted, and it was well known that he's probably going to be a second baseman for a reason, kind of like Tamar Johnson. Like, he's a little bit limited defensively. So, but like, I mean, it's AAA. So worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't look pretty there, then like you just kick him back to second base, and he's a above average hitting second baseman. So, which is still theoretically still could be a need. We're not sure. Nick Gonzalez was really good when he first came up, and he kind of cooled off towards getting hurt. So,
but right,
I think anybody that hits above average is a need on this team right now.
I mean, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. So, definitely not wrong.
I think there's really only two answers. It's Brian Reynolds and ONeal Cruz. Those are locked. Anywhere else, we're still looking.
Yeah. So.
Let's take this over to Billy Cook real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Any concern with the strikeout or swing and miss at all? Kind of a higher strikeout guy early in his career, cut those down, and then small sample size, but they're up a little bit right now.
There has been some swing and miss on there. There's a couple he chased a little bit there. I feel like it'd be something definitely to monitor and stuff like that. It was mainly what I've seen. Mainly it was like just early game, like fastballs, maybe just trying to jump out on something. Maybe can help being a little more patient at the plate kind of thing. Just kind of like, chill, wait for the kind of his pitch. But when he's made contact, it's been really good contact. And like, I could also too, is like, man, he's just new team. Maybe he's just trying to play his way out of AAA kind of thing. Maybe trying to do a little too much at this point. So we'll see things how go. Like once he starts settling in and stuff like that, maybe that comes down a bit. But yeah, I have noticed some swing and miss and stuff like that. But like I said, it might be just kind of trying to do too much right now, because he has been, when he has been hitting the ball, he's been hitting it really well. Quite a bit of extra bases and stuff. So
what about the speed? Because it seems like he's really showing the wheels right now. And this year with Baltimore, he has like
4 or 5 stolen 16? Bases in a couple games.
8 games.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some speed there. I think that's what initially kind of like at first, I was a big Patrick Riley guy, so like I was like, okay, well, kind of sucks to see him go. But then like, okay, well, there are a couple places talking about like plus speed there, and maybe he's a guy who can kick over to center field, and obviously with Baltimore in their AAA team, he's not going to have that much of an opportunity to play center field, because they're loaded with prospects, so especially in the outfield. So this trade obviously becomes a lot better if he can play center. So they did him once there. He looked pretty good out in center. We'll just see how much more opportunities he gets and stuff like that. But you could definitely tell there's at least above average speed there that they're playing with him.
Yeah, it's you talk about the trade, how the York one was your favorite. I know you're such a big Patrick Riley guy, so I can kind of feel how you probably didn't like that one too much.
Yeah.
What's it going to take for Billy Cook to win you over from trading a guy like Patrick Riley?
I mean, I think he's on the right path for it right now. I really have liked what I saw. Like I said, it was like my initial reaction obviously was like, dang, I didn't want to give up Patrick Riley. I was hoping we could hang on to him. But then the more I read it, the more, I saw maybe that there's a potential center fielder there. The center field is definitely, especially in the upper levels, probably one of the bigger needs that the team has. Like you said, there's a lot of needs that the team has and stuff like that, but center field's right up there just because I don't know if there's a clear-cut pitcher throughout this system, unless you want to talk about, the guy who can't be named when Jim is on, who played center field for the first time finally.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
So not much down there in the system and stuff like that. So if Cook can come in and handle that, like that's having a bona fide center fielder. That's incredibly valuable in any system, which we've seen very first-handedly.
Right. Cool.
So, yeah.
Did you have any more, Tyler, on them too?
No, I really was interested in the speed aspect of it because we have seen him be aggressive on the bases, and he was a 30 stolen base guy in Baltimore. Kind of saw him fall off a little bit this year, but seems to be back.
I would say probably just seems more like opportunity. Maybe the opportunities weren't there and stuff like that, depending where he was hitting in the lineup and stuff like that. So, and he was playing like a lot of first base, so maybe they're just having him prioritize hitting or something like that. So,
cool. Well, we'll kind of lump these two as one. I feel like, especially with the trade and such, they kind of are. It's like it's the Cook York combination.
Yeah.
Any other hitter this week you want to talk about?
So it was the first like extended look I was able to get at Johnny Severino down in Bradenton. They got him in the Carlos Santana trade. Had a 4-hit day last week, 8 hits total. Hit his first home run. He's looked really good. Like this looks everyone loved Carlos Santana. Like for half a season worth of Santana, this is like everyone thought this could be like a really good get for the system, and like he finally got the call. He's still 19 years old and has been hitting very well since getting in 2 weeks. He's played 2 weeks, 11 hits already. So, and he hit double-digit home runs in the complex league, which isn't easy to do. The ball does not carry well out there in the complex, and so double-digit home runs as a 19-year-old, really, really impressive. So plays a pretty good third base. They still have him play shortstop a little bit. He's not going to be like a shortstop. He'll probably be he'll be a third baseman. Maybe a chance they'll have to go to like left field or something like that down the road. But for now, I think he's a pretty good lower level third baseman. But just hit really well. And I had a couple steals too. So just really good start. Bradenton got a bunch of guys from the complex league come up. They had a couple of draft picks that just got assigned to, and he's just easily been the best of the bunch so far.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, 56 games, 10 home runs, 12 stolen bases. Like you mentioned, now And Bradenton 9 games, and he has a home run, 2 stolen bases. I mean, hitting 297, 366, slugging 514. It's definitely doing the stuff you want to see. And like you mentioned, I mean, there's a half season of Carlos Santana, who was a fine first baseman, but it's also first baseman. So like, this kind of a get for him was pretty good.
Yeah,
I wish he was still a Pirate, but it's his kind of return from last year is pretty good. Yeah. For a team that's struggling for hitting.
Yeah.
It's 11 home runs in 60 something games. I mean,
65.
I know it's
in the ball does not carry well. Like in the complex, like I think if you could get to 5 to 6 home runs or something like that, you're probably get on some people's radars when it comes to like power. So like getting to double digits as a teenager, I think, yeah, that's not bad to do.
Also, just a quick overview, doesn't really seem overmatched with under 25% strikeouts so far in Bradenton.
Yeah. He did have like a very noticeable like swing and miss issue like early in the year, but you could see it like starting to clean up a little bit as it goes on. We'll see how he does like as like single A pitching starts to like adjust to him a little bit more to see maybe if there's any pushback and stuff like that. But he has made some fairly noticeable adjustments when it comes to that there, and like you said, it's starting to show a little bit more there too, where the strikeouts are coming down. So
good. Cool. Well, how about the pitching side of things? What 2 we got here?
I mean, we probably have to talk about Bubba, right? First AAA start.
I think
First
so.
AAA start. I mean, he carried the no hitter into like the first, like had a no hitter in the first like 3 or 4 innings or something like that. Only the 2 hits, a walk. 40% of his pitches were either called strikes or whiffs or swings and misses. So averaging 97, 98, almost a 50% whiff rate with his fastball, which is insane at like any level. And then you factor in he's 21 years old, making his first start in AAA, and he struck out, or he had a whiff rate of almost 50% with it. So yeah, like I remember, I think it was last week, like I said, maybe we need to pump the brakes on the Bubba going to the majors,
right?
Give him a couple weeks. But man, if he's just going to keep doing this, like just I don't know what you're playing. I don't know what they're going to be playing for at the end of August now, seeing what the major league team is doing. But like he may be kicking down doors here in the next week or 2 and being like, yeah, because like he's even mixing in like the curveball even more and using the so like for someone with that kind of fastball coming up to a new level, and with how effective that pitch was in that game, like I could have easily seen him just go like 50, 60, close to 70% usage with it. Results probably wouldn't have been good, but like the strikeouts probably would have been higher, maybe a couple more walks, but like he limited to like 40, just over 40% usage, used the slider a lot, mixed in the curveball. He's using the curveball kind of just like a get over pitch against like lefties and stuff like that. The changeup is nasty. If he can locate that changeup just a little bit better, I mean, that's easily one of the better changeups in the system. He's just like, that was just like a total package kind of start for him. And it was in AAA against some pretty good hitters too. I don't think Milwaukee isn't like Toledo like they played last week with a load of former major league players, but there's some decent prospects on the team. Yeah, it was just impressive. He just keeps blowing past like expectations and stuff like that. You kind of want to be like, okay, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit. He's still 21. Now he's in he's in AA, struggled a little bit. Okay, well, we expected it. Came back from the injury, and he just different levels since then.
It's so exciting to see. Yeah. And like, yeah. So when he made that start, I know the numbers just looked fantastic. And of course, it's one start, like you're mentioning, like you want to see him string it off, but what a debut. But to me, the fastball was super impressive. Don't get me wrong. But it was like when I looked at the other stuff and everything else graded out really well too. And like you mentioned, the changeup, like how well that looked. So I was like, okay, holy hell. Because we know the fastball is good. That was one thing. Let's rewind back. We were talking about the season upcoming. I think like the first few shows we had you on, and you made your little thing here about like, whose fastball is better, him or Paul Skeens. Like that's the level Bubba needs to be on, the type of respect you need to give him. But it's like the secondary stuff. It's like, man, it's here. It's real. It's legit. And for everything we talked about Bubba Chandler, how much of a project he's going to be, and give him time and this and that. And it's just like he's taking it to hyper gear. And again, I want to slow down a little bit. I know my excitement's going, but it's like this guy's here. It's here.
It's legit now. It's 100% legit. And you talk about like the changeup. I remember I went and watched his last start in Greensboro last year, and coming out his arm, like there's no difference between the fastball and the changeup. The arm speed is just 100% the same so like you don't know it's a changeup until the last second, and it's just falling completely away from like left-handed hitters, and they have like zero shot at it. It's just everything's to be this complete of a pitcher now, when we're just talking about a little over a year ago about like, there needs to be some patience because this is his first, last year was his first year focusing solely on pitching. Just how quickly he's come now with that is just insane.
It's amazing how he just like all of a sudden throws strikes.
Yeah.
Just woke up one morning like, I'm going to throw strikes now.
Yeah. And that's the inside the strike zone. That's the even the fastball, and just insane.
I do love flipping the curveball early in counts too with guys that throw harder stuff. And we saw it a little bit with Skeens and Jones this year. I've been a big proponent of that for a while, but I just love that the Pirates are starting to implement that.
Yeah. It's been a game changer for him. But it's another pitcher, I guess. Also back from an injury recently, Michael Kennedy pitched pretty good in Bradenton last week. He 5 innings, only gave up 1 hit, which was a Starling Marte home run. He was down there down there on rehab. So the only hit he allowed was to a major league player, and of course that major league player is Starling Marte. So
could be worse. Give
up 1 hit.
Yeah,
just Starling Marte is okay.
Yeah. If he's going to give up a hit, I guess to a major league player is okay. I guess it's a better story if it's just like he strikes him out or something like that. But he's been good since he's came back. 10 strikeouts, only 2 earned runs over 8 innings. His 2 starts since return. He's missed about like a month and a half. He's kind of guy that like, the Pirates like their analytics kind of thing, extension and fastballs that play up. And he kind of fits that mold because, the fastball is only going to average like right at 90 miles an hour, but it still gets like a 30% whiff rate, which is really good for fastballs. The extension is not like Bailey Falter level extension, but it's not too far behind it. So, obviously it plays a little bit faster. It looks a little bit faster and stuff like that. And he struggled a little bit right before he went on the injured list, but like part of me now kind of feels like maybe it was just he was dealing with something, and then they finally caught up to it and said, okay, well, we're going to give you a little bit of a break. But he's one of the interesting guys. Like he kind of revamped like his entire like pitch. I talked to him while I was down in Bradenton. Like he like Patrick Riley showed him how he threw his changeup, and like Kennedy kind of adapted that kind of change. He was like a curveball guy in high school, lowered his arm slot, changed it to a sweeper. So he's just kind of reworked his stuff, and it's looked really good down in Bradenton. He's still really young. He won't turn 20 till like the end of the year. So we're looking at like he'll probably be in Greensboro next year at 20 years old. So another young guy moving up kind of thing.
Is he playing the fastball up in the zone? I haven't really.
The fastball plays really well up in the zone, and because like he sequences the pitches and times them so well off each other, that just adds like another bit of like deception to it. So yeah, the fastball plays really well up in the zone. Last I checked, it was like a 29% whiff rate, which I think anything there, especially at the velocity he's throwing, right, you'll take that.
And only being 19, you hope you can maybe a tick or two.
That's what he said. He said he kind of did dial it back a little bit this year just to kind of make sure he was throwing more strikes, because when he was in the complex last year, he had some innings to where like he was hitting 92, 93 in the complex, but like some innings would get away from him and he'd walk like 2 or 3 people in an inning. And so like the command would like go in and out and stuff like that. So he said he was trying to dial it back to be a lot more consistent with like his arm action and throwing strikes and stuff like that. So it's in there. He knows it's in there. It's just kind of a slowly figuring out, getting it to come back and throw strikes at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like last year, he threw 42 innings in Complex League, 19 walks. This year in Bradenton, 61 innings pitched, 11 walks. Like they've cut down quite a bit, gone from 4 walks per 9 to 1.6. Strikeouts still pretty much being there. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Again, like this little bit of a pitching factory they have. There's one thing I trust in the Pirates. It's probably the only thing, but it's a strong feeling. It's a strong trust with them. They've figured something out with pitching. They know what they identify. They know what they want. They know what they can work with. They get it and they do it.
Yeah, and that's why you're okay. That's why ultimately you're okay with like the Patrick Riley trade, because you know
right.
They can probably cook up someone else and something like that and build someone else up.
But absolutely. That's where I feel.
Yeah.
Like the Quinn Priester trade, the Patrick Riley trade, it all makes sense because this is stuff that you can't do. So let the other organizations do it for you.
Yep.
Then give what you can do up for them and hope that you can continue at the major league level, which I still don't have much trust with, but at least it's a head start.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. Anthony, as always, we appreciate it. Anything else that you wanted to like chime in? Any last quick updates on anyone else? Just
the only thing is like a quick site update. We'll have like an updated top 25 ranking list on the site that includes like the new players and the draft picks and everything like that. That should be on like Wednesday or Thursday, something like that. So
I think there's a lot of Pirates fans that can't wait to see that now, because again, that's kind of where the focus is. Again.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing the top 25 of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the new face minor league Pittsburgh Pirates. All right. Well, as always, appreciate it. You can find him on Twitter at __ Murphy 88, I believe. Correct. And of course, Bucs On Deck Substack, and the podcast comes out tomorrow.
Yep.
So till next week, Murphy, we'll see you.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Ty. So this is the time of the podcast that we talk about this upcoming series.
Yeah.
And because how important it is, because the Pirates in the play. Well, they face the Padres again. We'll say that the Padres are hot as hell, maybe thanks to the Pirates. But I mean, they were hot before the Pirates also. That was one of the things about facing them. It's like, hey, they're pretty hot. It's a tough test ahead of you. Clearly, they failed that test. Now they're in their ballpark. They're playing at San Diego and Petco to face them. And I mean, once again, it's not that they're coming in the full strength. Now, Mitch Keller will pitch this series at least, where, Keller and Skeens both missed the first one. So Keller will be there. Luis Ortiz tomorrow, Keller the third game. Today it's TBD that I'm seeing. I mean, is it Marco? Is it not?
I have no idea. I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess I'm kind of perplexed on why it's not just simply Marco. Is something up?
I don't know. They brought that up on the broadcast yesterday. I didn't really go into depth on it, but I don't know what they're doing. Maybe skipping a start here, but he's not in line to like be moved back a day or so because they have the next 2 days figured out. I don't know.
You're look right now.
I'm looking, but
if you're listening to this on the podcast, Tyler's certainly confused and trying to find out. Well, at any rate, yeah, I don't know what's happening today. I mean, it should just be Marco. It's Joe Musgrove. He's returning from the IL today. Now, we know how good Musgrove is. He's not having the best of the season. He's also coming off the injury. So he's just coming back. You face King tomorrow against Luis Ortiz. And of course, like we mentioned, Mitch Keller comes back. And he's also facing Martin Perez. old friend, trade deadline acquisition for the Padres. So I'll say this, like the pitching matchup is easier for the Pirates this time around, at least. I know King's still there, but hey, they got the King last time also. Maybe the pitching matchups are better for the Pirates. We'll find out today. That has a big impact. But yeah, like how do you feel about this series right now?
Not great, but it's hard to feel good about a lot of these series going forward. If I'm interested in anything, it's seeing how Mitch Keller bounces back here. I want to see the secondary stuff really work again. Want to see Luis Ortiz get back on track. Today's just kind of a clunker, I feel like. And that could change, I guess. But yeah, just get the pitching back on track because it's been a little bit of a rough go of it these last couple weeks, pitching-wise.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to be polite.
It's cost the entire season. That's not a little bit.
They also kept them in the season.
Yeah, but for the past few weeks, it's not been a little bit.
Yeah, well, the starting pitching.
Right.
The bullpen.
No, that's all fair.
Yeah. I want to see Ortiz especially get back on track because we know who Mitch Keller is. Luis Ortiz is still kind of a question mark. And I think we were getting a little hopeful that there might be a little starting pitcher in him. And it looked like there was. Late the last couple of starts, it hasn't been very good. If he can finish strong, it'd be nice to be able to count on Luis Ortiz maybe fighting for a rotation spot next year.
This kind of has a little bit of like we talk about with like York, Cook, Henry Davis. Luis Ortiz isn't truly there. Like we talk about answers. There's a lot of hopeful, like you mentioned, like the past few starts haven't been good. But what's encouraging is they've kind of all come like the bad came kind of clumped in one little spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finished out strong. He didn't allow that to get to him. And like the rest of the time, he looked like the good Luis Ortiz pitcher again. So right. Like I think Luis Ortiz being a good starting pitcher is good for this team. He's helped out. He's been, an unheralded pitcher for this team for most of the year. So like finishing out the year in the rotation, answering some things because again, like Mitch Keller, Paul Skeens, hopefully Jared Jones, of course, comes back from injury, but next year he'll be there. Bubba, the way he's looking, like there's 4 guys that are in this rotation. Health aside, they're locked. So you're fighting for, number 5 start. Is it Luis Ortiz? Is it Bailey Falter? Is it Ashcraft even down the road? Or, is it a free agent you want? Like, so like you talk about guys fighting for jobs. Like Luis Ortiz is kind of fighting for a job right now too. It's like, hey, listen, I am a starting pitcher. So once I go into the offseason, I want you in my plans. And then once you're in Bradenton, figuring these things out. But he can answer a lot of questions right now for you. So he's important, I think, for this last month and a half also, for sure. But you're right. Like with this series, I don't feel good. Like you look at the starting pitching matchups and it's like, you know what? Typically, I can see him winning a few games here. But I don't trust anything from his bullpen anymore. The offense is kind of there. And again, we're talking about their pitching matchups. I can see the offense getting to them. They can score some runs here in the Pirates. But I don't trust anymore this team into winning games. And that's just where we're at. Like, it's way more than just the matchups these days.
Yeah. It's been a rough go of it, man. We're beaten down.
Right.
But it'd be nice to at least get back on track a little bit here. Win some games. We talked about Luis Ortiz a little bit. He's on the team next year no matter what. It's just whether he's going to – I think he's on the team no matter what. He's in the bullpen at the very least.
Right.
It's a matter of whether he's a starter or not, and that's a big question mark. Today, I think, is just kind of a throw it out the window starting pitching-wise. We'll see if the bats can get going a little bit. And if we're looking offensively, see what ONeal Cruz can do down the stretch, because we are seeing him start to hit lefties pretty well. He's hitting the ball really hard against them. Maybe that's something to watch out for as this year goes on, if he can complete the part of the game offensively and not have such extreme platoon splits. He's never going to hit like rake lefties, but at least just be competitive against them.
Yeah. I think this is like a huge development. It's small sample, but since July 1st, he's batting 357, 7 extra bases, right? His 11 hits, 7 extra bases, 3 for home runs, 4 doubles, or that could be inversed actually. But like
for you, but whatever.
But then, he had another walk, against a lefty. So he has been looking a lot better versus lefties. And we know he can mash righties. He's been doing that all season long. And of course, even better recently. But yeah, that's a huge development. Like if he can be competent against lefties, that's the next step for ONeal Cruz. That is absolutely the next step. And he's starting to take it. So yeah, that's a good point about Cruz.
We're down to talking about like 2 offensive players now.
It really is. Like Ryan Reynolds just continues doing his thing. Cruz continuing to take this step, continuing to improve, continuing to get better, to be at least somewhat close to that guy that you feel it's in there. Obviously, you also want to see the defense get cleaned up. Yeah, I mean that 7-game stretch was just awful.
Yeah,
defensively. And then it's like outside of that, it's just like okay.
Brian Hayes maybe start to hit a little bit.
Yeah. He's hit the ball in the air a little bit more. And like you mentioned with Kutch, I feel like he'll be back next year. If we're taking bets right now, that's where I'm at. And it's not worth an argument, but there is still a possibility that this is the last time you see Kutch. So, yeah, you might want to savor these next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
45 games, I think it is left. So something-ish about that.
Sure has flown by.
It really has. But yeah, again, I guess with the series coming up, those are pitching matchups, at least 5 out of 6 of them. And I don't really know what to tell you. Like the bullpen has to. That's another thing I guess you want to talk about. Like, how does Bednar finish? Halterman, I guess, once he comes off the IL and returns. Like Majinski once, and if he comes off the IL and returns. I think there's a lot of. I don't think you're going into next year thinking is David Bednar a reliever, right? But you might start questioning, is he a closer?
I think he looked better yesterday. I just think they left him out there, and they didn't have another choice. They just left him out there a little bit too long. Thought he looked better. It's not the David Bednar we know.
No. Yep. And again, just as a unit, this bullpen has to come together. So, right. Yeah, outside of that, we'll be back, of course, for the post-game shows. I don't even know if we have a schedule yet. I don't even know who's going to be on tonight.
Yeah, I don't know.
TBD. Our pitching matchups are also to be determined today. But yeah, we'll be back. So any last words, Tyler?
Nope. I got to go to work now.
We'll see you guys later. As always, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, listen to the podcast. Go ahead and leave us a comment if you want to. Tell us how good Tyler did today, filling in for Jim. We love hearing comments about Tyler. Tyler loves hearing comments about Tyler, especially. So leave all the comments about Tyler and how well he did on this show. And then we'll see you tonight. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucs.